Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi there, I'm Johnny Mac with your Daily Comedy News, a daily briefing on stand-up comedy, comedians, and the comedy industry, a sentence the algorithm loves. On Late Night, they were talking about the war. Did you see the president was running the war out of Mar-a-Lago over the weekend? Because, why would you run it out of the White House? Seth Meyers said, I had a more secure room when I was trying on jeans at Old Navy. You started a war in the Middle East and you didn't even go into the office? You're going to work from home it? How am I going to get my writers to come into work when the President of the United States treats war like a Teams meeting? Stephen Colbert said, fun fact, Epic Fury is an anagram for forget Epstein. An interesting article in Deadline about how these comedy specials are doing in the ratings. They say Cat Williams' latest special, The Last Report, released on February 10th, has gotten 7.1 million views in its first week. That's up 10% from Cat's previous special, 2024's Woke Folk. It is the 11th biggest U.S. debut for any Netflix special going back to 2017. Some other info. Dave Chappelle's 2019 Sticks and Stones has the biggest U.S. viewership of any Netflix special in the last decade, plus 35.36 million debuts. However, that trails Shane Gillis live in Austin on YouTube at 52 million plus views. Shane's Netflix special, 2023's Beautiful Dogs, has 28 million views on Netflix. Deadline points out YouTube counts 30 seconds of streaming as a view. Netflix divides a title's total hours by its runtime to calculate views. Over on Amazon, Jim Gaffigan's 2019 Quality Time, 16.4 million views. Nate Bargatze's Hello World, 13.5. That came out 4 years later than the Gaffigan one. Eliza Schlesinger's A Different Animal came out last year, 1.32 million views. So far, the biggest on Amazon this year is Kathleen Madigan's The Family Thread, which came out in November of last year. That has 1.28 million views. On Hulu, Kumail Nanjiani's Night Thoughts, which came out late last year, is the streamer's number 2 special in the 52 weeks ending February 15th, 2026, Hulu's third biggest special since 2024, trailing Jim Gaffigan with The Skinny and Bill Burr's The Drop Dead Years. Nola caught up with Kyle Kinane. Kyle was recently asked if he wanted to perform comedy during Phish's 4-day takeover at a Cancun resort. Kyle was like, sure, and ended up seeing Phish 3 times that weekend. He said, I'm like, well, I've kind of made my mark on that community, and they don't like me. Anytime my knee-jerk reaction is like, this is going to suck, I kind of have to do it. If it sounds like a bad idea, well, why don't you go find out for yourself instead of just from a distance pointing your finger and judging? So I said yes to it and wound up having a great time. Kyle told The Gambit, try to find the micro-happiness because the world will not make you happy. The universe is crappy, so try to be a champion of yourself and find the happiness in your own little microcosm. Kyle says, over the last couple of years, I'm realizing that fame and success are different. I've accomplished what I want to. I might not be outwardly successful in terms of what other comedians have, but I'm grateful for what I do have and appreciative of the friends and what I've gotten from comedy. Johnny Mac, you never talk about Chris Fleming. I know, right? Vulture did a big profile of him. Have you watched the special yet? It's really good. Vulture says, Chris Fleming arrives at the hotel in an absurdly tiny seafoam green car, a Nissan Figaro, an obscure 1950s-style convertible with chrome detailing, tiny round headlights, and a right-side steering wheel. Fleming is 6'2", and when he sits in the driver's seat, his knees fold up to his chest, so they started driving around. The writer says, this is like Seinfeld, doing comedians in cars getting coffee. Fleming says, F, that's a huge problem if this is what this is giving off, damn it. Chris is asked if he cares about cars in general. Is this a hobby? Oh, God, no. This is pure aesthetic. I love it. I got to look up now. I'm curious what this car looks like. Nissan Figaro. Oh, yeah. You gotta look this thing up. This thing looks like it belongs in a retro movie set in, like, Europe somewhere. This thing is tiny. What a cool-looking car, though. We learn in the profile Chris Fleming's mother realized his talent when Chris was 16. Mom drove him to his first open mic. Fleming remembers Mom saying, you want to be like Robin Williams, right? Well, you got to do stand-up, MFer. I was like, oh, I don't want to do stand-up. Stand-up sucks. I don't like watching it. I wanted to be in movies, and I found stand-up tedious. People magazine profiled Nate Bargatze as part of the game show. Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's Scrubs night, trivia night, game show night, Schrodinger's jury duty night. Now, I'm a little worried as I record this on Tuesday. Now, I was expecting they would tell me to call back on Wednesday. They told me to call back on Tuesday night, so I'm a little worried that they're going to get me. I might actually record 2 episodes while I'm sitting here in the studio and actually home. Nate cleared up some of the rumors about him quitting stand-up. He said, I'm not quitting stand-up right now. I got this current tour. We're doing another tour, but there's going to be a point where it's going to get hard to travel on the road as we're creating so much stuff and making these movies. And then I want to go help find the next generation of comedians or actors, writers. At least I wanted to stand there and tell them I've done what I'm asking them to do. Last week, Jason Zinnemann, friend of the show, in the New York Times, he wrote, "The most popular comedian you've probably never heard of. That person is Max Amini, who I had never heard of. Remember at the end of the year, Deadline kind of was like, hey, Max Amini's selling out places. And I was like, who? Well, Max Amini is the most popular comedian you've probably never heard of, correctly pointed out by Jason Zinnemann of the New York Times. Jason went to see Max Amini at the Garden, all this before the current war. I just want to point that out. Jason writes, arenas like the Garden aren't built for crowd work. In the upper balcony, you can't hear, let alone see half the conversation. But this didn't stop Amini, who made small talk with ticket buyers for 20 straight minutes. Jason writes, the Max Amini phenomenon reflects a transitional moment in an increasingly globalized comedy scene, upending two common beliefs. The first is that fans just want great jokes. Some do. What you see from Amini is an artist less interested in putting together clever punchlines than in creating a sense of an event, a warm vibe, a show that becomes a community. On Sunday, when Dane Cook introduced Amini, he didn't trumpet the younger comic's funniness, but his ability to connect and unify. Dane Cook? Didn't expect that name in this story. At one point, a drunk audience member hijacked the show. At another, a woman told a long story about seeing a medium that almost no one in the arena could hear. Amini got his biggest laughs mocking the audience members, calling back to them, weaving them into a story. What becomes clear is they're not just seeing the show, they are the show. Judging from the crowd at the Garden, his audience comes from nearly every continent, and Amini made sure that his material is accessible to them all. His subjects were universal and bland, dating, family, music, and he never went deep or specific enough to confuse anyone. His examination of Iranian culture often applies to other immigrant experiences. Again, this show and the article are from before the war. Jason Zinnemann wrote at that time, Amini's only really challenging material came at the end of the show when he stopped joking and told the crowd that thousands of protesters had been killed in Iran, and that what was happening there was, quote, the biggest revolution in our time, unquote. Then he showed a series of short videos of scenes of violence, protesters getting run over and attacked, and as a narrator intoned, freedom is not a punchline. Don't forget to vote someone off the island on Comedy Survivor. Regular Survivor's on TV tonight, too. So we got that, and Scrubs, and Trivia Night. Got on Knicks. The Knicks are on tonight. They're playing the champions. Big night. Comedy Survivor, 16 comedians, one island. Half of them have already been voted off by the listeners. What you do is you go to the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. There you'll see a picture of me extinguishing the torch of Kevin Hart from last week. And this week, you'll vote someone off the island. I took a quick look this morning. It looked like Bert Kreischer is in trouble. So if you're part of the Bert Kreischer Alliance, you're happy. And if not, you guys want to form an alliance and vote someone else off to save Bert Kreischer. Up to you. I don't care. It's just a bit. All that's up to you guys. I'm just the host. Radar Online says that Stephen Colbert's ratings are pretty bad and CBS can't wait for it to be over. The phrasing from Radar Online is, bosses are counting the days until he's out while telling him not to let the door whack his behind on the way out. The series finale is May 21st, and it can't come too soon for CBS bigwigs who note that the comic is facing his worst January ratings in the 25 to 54 age group ever, with just 285,000 viewers. That is not a lot of people. An insider said the final show can't come soon enough for most folks at the network. They're sick to the back teeth of Colbert's raging ego, his constant attention-seeking, and petty histrionics. The feeling's pretty mutual, to be fair. Steven's only going through the motions at this point, but that makes for a lousy vibe, and it's doing nothing to improve the shattered morale of his employees, most of whom will be out of a job soon enough, no thanks to him. The insider said the fact his ratings are in the pan does justify the decision to cut ties, but it also means a sharp decline in revenue. And there are some folks at the network who are flat out accusing Steven of sabotaging the show on his way out the door. Whatever his motive, the next few months can't pass soon enough. Wow. Jimmy Carr is getting another season of his TV show, Am I the A-Hole? Carr said of UK's Comedy Central, we're bringing back Am I the A-Hole, and I'm hosting again a guest Comedy Central figure. When it comes to A-Holes, game recognizes game. On Am I the A-Hole? Judges judge members of the public on their questionable behavior and morally dubious actions. For example, say you played the Riyadh Comedy Festival. They would say, hey, are you an a-hole? And then the judges would decide whether or not that was something that would make someone an a-hole. But hey, a check's a check, right? President Trump has announced on social media that he will participate in this year's White House Correspondents Association dinner. In the past, that was hosted by comedians who would roast everyone in the room, including whatever person was the sitting president. This year's host is celebrity mentalist Oz Perlman. I'm not familiar with Mr. Perlman's work, Perlman was profiled, apparently, by the New York Times back in October. The headline on that article said, "It's not cheating, it's reading minds." Oz Perlman has revealed Joe Rogan's ATM code on air and entertained NFL stars. Now the manosphere's favorite magician wants more. Okay, that's all I know about this person. And now he's hosting the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which will be attended by the President of the United States, who posted on social media during the war, in honor of our nation's 250th birthday. And because these correspondents now admit that I am truly one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country, the GOAT. Wait, is the president saying he's only one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country? I thought he was the greatest, according to himself. No, he's only one of them. I wonder who else is on his list. Anyway, the president said he will help make the dinner the, in caps, greatest, hottest, and most spectacular dinner of any kind ever. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, taking a break from answering questions about the war that Congress did not approve, posted, "Will be fun." And I'll leave you with this today. I put this last on purpose. Listen to me, because I'm going to prove it. And you're going to struggle to make it to the end of today's show, but this will prove my point. This is why I put it last. When Jim Gaffigan is not doing polished written material, he is horribly, horribly unfunny. I will prove it to you. Jim Gaffigan went on social media. He had a message for you. I defy you to make it to the end of this clip.
Hey, everyone. It's Jim Gaffigan. I just want to let you know that my forehead is still large. I do have some kind of exciting news. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe conspiracy theory. Recently, I passed 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Now, I'm not saying that had anything with the Supreme Court overturning the tariffs, but it seems a little like, what a coincidence, right? It's like stock market reaches 50,000, then it goes down. Bitcoin goes down, all those ships are moving to, in position in Iran, and then my YouTube subscriber goes up to 1 million. Anyway, thank you. If you have subscribed and watched the Bourbon Set.
Jim Gaffigan. Holy cow, that was bad. That's your comedy news for today. I think I'm going to record Thursday while I'm here. I got a bad sense about this jury duty call. So let me make sure you have a show so I can see you tomorrow.